One of the things that really drives me nuts is when I'm talking to people who aren't of faith or don't believe in Christ, and they've never actually done any research into what a relationship like that looks like, or even read the Gospels or read the documentation of what we understand about Jesus and why we understand it to be true. They take their relationship with religion and the hurt they've experienced with it and what they see with organized religion, and they apply it to somebody who was actively preaching against a lot of organized religion at the time, which I find so fascinating. Is like Jesus, a big part of what he was preaching when he was here was this idea that the organized religion at that time had been twisted and corrupted and put on a pedestal and leveraged for power and profit. And so many people that stand against Christianity now and actively protest against it are protesting against the same things that Christ protested about, and yet they don't believe in Christ. And that's what kind of like, if they just did a little bit of like personal digging and understanding and reading, they could come to the same conclusion, but in the process aligning themselves in a focus of love and understanding, rather than demonization and hate. And it is kind of fascinating to me as well that they'll look at Jesus and say that this is an ordinary dude who didn't perform miracles. He performed parlor tricks and magic tricks, and it got inflated into something it wasn't as information passed throughout time. When the reality of that couldn't be further from the truth when you dig into it. I mean, look at other historical figures that we have that take up a substantial part of our history, that have traveled throughout time. Genghis Khan, we have less than 10 manuscripts that prove his existence. Julius Caesar, only 10 manuscripts prove his existence. And Alexander the Great only has 15 manuscripts that we've discovered that prove his existence. Plato, 210, substantially higher than the others, but still only 210 for Plato. The number of manuscripts that Jesus had documenting the influence, the effect, and the miracles that he was displaying at the time, total over 25,000 that we have. That's wild. When you understand that, you have these prominent leaders like Julius Caesar, Genghis Khan, Plato, that completely changed our understanding of history and take up a substantial part of our history books. And yet Jesus, who was performing miracles that like radicalized the population to almost overthrow an empire, took up he was documented in 25,000 different manuscripts that we've discovered. This isn't just a random ordinary dude. This is a guy who was shaking the world. And it's only because information has been passed and time has passed through generation that our understanding of how radical he was has become fragmented and minimized. And so I actually think it's the opposite. I think we haven't built him up into this deity that we put on a pedestal. I actually think the massiveness of just the miracles he was performing and what he was doing has been minimized throughout time, and we don't have the understanding or the grasp of it to be able to do it justice. And when you start digging into it and understanding that and trying to put yourself in that time period, it changes everything. You start looking at just the evidence and how prophecies were being fulfilled and manuscripts were being written across the world in ways that they didn't have the means to communicate at that time, yet it was being documented and information was being spread, and he was becoming a substantial part of history. And I think it's extremely important to remember that and come to these conclusions yourselves and like digging into the history of it rather than allowing your perception of what religion is and organized religion now dictate your feelings towards a relationship with Christ. And that's honestly how I kind of challenge other people that I come in contact with that are super anti-Christianity or anti-relationship with God. Is that coming from a hurt from organized religion? Or have you dove into actually researching this and understanding it yourself and seeing how transformative it can be? Like allowing the ego to the side and outside influence be put to the side and actually come to a state of vulnerability and seeing, where do I side in this without the influence of everything else in the world? So yeah, if you like this conversation and this talk, like and subscribe. I'm going to be posting more of these videos. You might like some of these other videos that pop up at the end here. And if you disagreed or agreed and wanted to brain blast off of that into some other direction, I'd love a comment below. I think what's so important about this is to develop a community of like-minded people who are centered in love and understanding and kind of digging into the depths of this stuff. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Other than that, though, I'll see you tomorrow, and have a good night.